Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into one of the biggest balancing acts in modern society, our right to privacy versus the government's power to keep an eye on things. It's a fundamental conflict, really, our need to feel safe versus our desire to be left alone. So, let's start with a warning that's nearly 100 years old, but honestly, sounds like it could have been written yesterday. When Supreme Court Justice Louis Brandeis said this back in 1928, the telephone was still pretty new. But he saw with incredible foresight how this simple little device could become a powerful tool for government surveillance, way beyond anything the Founding Fathers ever dreamed of. And this slide right here gets to the heart of the whole thing. On one side, you've got the Fourth Amendment, our constitutional shield against unreasonable searches. But on the other side, you have the government's very real job to protect us. For the last century, technology has been the thing that keeps forcing us to ask, where exactly do we draw the line between these two? So where did this whole modern debate even begin? Well, we've got to go back to an era when a simple piece of tech, the telephone, first started to outpace the law. It all kicked off with this guy, Roy Olmsted. During Prohibition, he was basically the king of bootlegging in Seattle. Federal agents knew he was up to something, but they didn't have a warrant. So what did they do? They tapped his phone lines to get the evidence they needed. And that one simple act, just listening in on a private call, set the stage for a legal battle that would shape American privacy for the next 40 years. This timeline is fascinating because it shows you just how much the legal thinking twisted and turned. At first, in 1928, the Supreme Court basically said, no harm, no foul. A wiretap wasn't a physical trespass, so no warrant needed. But that just didn't sit right with a lot of people, so in 1934, Congress stepped in and banned it. Then came the big one. 1967, Katz v. United States. The court did a complete 180, establishing a brand new principle. The Fourth Amendment protects people, not places. And that created the legal standard we still use today, the reasonable expectation of privacy. Okay, so by the mid-20th century, the threat was changing. It wasn't just about someone listening in on a single phone call anymore. No, the new concern was the government's incredible new ability to collect, store, and search massive amounts of information on everybody, all thanks to the computer. And a perfect example of this is the National Crime Information Center, the NCIC, which the FBI launched in 1967. This was a game changer, a digital network connecting cops all over the country. It started with about 95,000 records. Today, as you can see, it's holding over 39 million. And here we go again, the classic trade-off. The NCIC was incredibly good at what it did. It helped catch huge criminals like Martin Luther King Jr.'s assassin and Timothy McVeigh. But all that power had a dark side. Bad data led to people being falsely arrested, and the FBI, under J. Edgar Hoover, even used the database to illegally spy on Vietnam War protesters. Now, some government data comes with what's supposed to be an ironclad promise. Take the U.S. Census. By law, the personal information it collects has to be kept completely confidential. Its only purpose is supposed to be for statistics, period. But during World War II, that promise was shattered. In what was a massive violation of both privacy and the law, the Army used that confidential census data to find and identify Japanese Americans, which helped them round people up for internment camps. It's just a chilling reminder that in a national emergency, data that was collected in trust can be used for something else entirely. And that brings us to the single biggest event that changed everything in the modern era. The September 11th attacks didn't just move the line between privacy and security, they completely erased it and drew a whole new map. When you're faced with a loss this staggering, the national priority becomes laser-focused. Prevent this from ever happening again at any cost. In the weeks after the attacks, the public was demanding more security, and the political will was absolutely there to make it happen. So Congress responded, and they responded with lightning speed. Just a few weeks after the attacks, they passed the USA Patriot Act. The name itself tells you everything you need to know. It was designed to give law enforcement and intelligence agencies a whole new set of tools for surveillance. So what was actually in this new toolkit? Well, for one, roving wiretaps, which meant they could target a person instead of just one phone, a huge shift. It also made it easier to track what you were doing online without needing probable cause. It created sneak and peek warrants, allowing secret searches of your property. And maybe most controversially, it expanded the use of national security letters, which let the FBI demand records from libraries, banks, and businesses, all without a judge signing off on it. So The legacy of the Patriot Act, well, it's really complicated. The government says it helped break up terrorist plots in a bunch of U.S. cities. But then you have these deeply troubling stories, like the case of Brandon Mayfield. He was an attorney who was wrongly arrested for the 2004 Madrid train bombings. He was held for 2 weeks before they realized they had the wrong guy. The U.S. government eventually had to apologize and pay him a $2 million settlement. And yeah, cases like Mayfield's just fueled this massive public debate about our civil liberties. This cartoon from 2006 really nails that feeling of anxiety, that in the hunt for terrorists, the government surveillance net had maybe been cast a little too wide, over all of us.
All right, let's bring this into the here and now. How does this long, complicated history actually impact our daily lives, from the card on our wallet to the way we travel?
This leads us to the Real ID Act of 2005. The goal seemed pretty reasonable. Create a single, secure standard for state driver's licenses that you could use for things like getting on a plane. But in reality, what it did was create a de facto national ID card, something the U.S. has historically been very, very resistant to. To get a real ID, you have to provide a whole lot of documentation. All of that personal data then gets put onto the card in a machine-readable format. And here's the key. That data is then linked to an interconnected network of state databases, creating one single nationwide system. Well, as you can probably guess, this whole idea sparked some fierce resistance. The thought of a national ID system, even one through the back door, raised huge privacy red flags. I mean, look at this chart. At one point, almost half of all states had passed laws or resolutions against the act, mainly because they were afraid it would create a centralized system for tracking citizens. And this tension is now just woven into our everyday lives. It's in the airport scanners that critics call a virtual strip search. It's in the estimated 30 million surveillance cameras all across the country. It's even in your Easy Pass. The data from toll booths has been used in everything from divorce cases to criminal trials to prove where someone was. Which leaves us with a big, big question for our time. Back in 1928, Justice Brandeis was worried about a simple telephone wiretap. Today, we have artificial intelligence, social media that tracks our every click, and constant data collection everywhere we go. As this tech gets smarter and more powerful, how are we as a society going to choose to redraw that line?